Testing. This is Dr. Bradley James Carville, providing a second installment to my ongoing research concerning quantum physics. I must begin my preamble with an apology. You see, my last installment, which I recorded several months ago, not quite sure exactly how... never mind. I've been struggling ever since I recorded that initial entry. Struggling with many things, but above all others is memory. Well, just yesterday I woke up to learn that it was January of 1949, which time should not be. I mean, I understand I am an older man, but I shouldn't be losing time in such large gaps. And then today I woke up to something inconceivable. Today, when I went to my porch to retrieve my newspaper, I was shocked to see myself. I was on the 5th page of the paper, being celebrated for my efforts in establishing the initial graduate cohort at BU. I remember nothing of this. Moreover, I was apparently invited to speak at the Molecular Quantum Mechanics Conference in December of 1955. In 1948, at the time of my initial recording, I was 63 years of age. Why, even in the picture I took, I do look a bit older, nearly 70, you see. However, as I look into the mirror now, I am no older or younger than the day of my initial recording. I'm so confused, indeed, quite perturbed by all of this. My cabinet is littered with the results of years and years of research, mentorship, etc., and yet I have no memory of any of it. I do remember one thing. I remember that during the recording, the end, I encountered something. I for the life of me can't remember just what it was, but I remember fear. One pleasant side effect of those lost memories is that it would appear as though I've made great progress in my efforts to understand the fractal dust that has been perverting my mathematical formulas. My work, presumably my work, it looks like I've confirmed what I once merely suspected. The calculations of these formulas does indeed change based on spatial positioning, based on time of day, based on apparently who is doing the calculations. This is highly abnormal. More on that in a minute. It also appears as though there are several additional space-time anomalies that exemplify this infidelity of the math. Let's see. Here's one. Now, Marcus Cambridge, aged 29. These police reports indicate that Marcus was convicted of and eventually executed for the crime of human trafficking. Here's the problem. He was convicted based off of his confessional tape, a tape that he insists he never recorded. Not until, a bit of explanation first. Marcus was an immigrant from the Congo. I've never heard of such a place. Somewhere in Africa, unimportant. As an immigrant, he is subject to certain check-ins. Sort of parole, you see, that he had monthly meetings with a social worker to ensure that he was acclimating to American culture appropriately. Now, apparently, during one of these meetings, the social worker he had been seeing, some woman named Maria, not so much on her. Anyway, in a meeting with her, he appeared quite worried, upset. He confessed to her that he had been doing some sort of horrid crimes that he feared he'd be arrested for. These notes, blotchy, tough to read, but the general gist is that she suspected human trafficking. Naturally, she called the police. He was promptly arrested. Now, here is the important part of the story. During his interrogation, there was a tremendous electrical surge in the police department. It only lasted a few minutes, but the people who were there say that they described the incident as almost acting as a sort of reset. Nobody can seem to remember what happened in those few minutes, aside from the blackness and a loud ear ringing. In fact, the episode was so powerful that it was written about in the local paper, as well as documented by the local government. They spent weeks, apparently weeks, going over possible explanations for such a tremendous technical disruption. Let's see here, Yes, so 2 weeks later, after being held in custody and insisting his innocence the entire time, the police produced a recording of him confessing to the crimes. Here is the recording in question.
I, Marcus Cambridge, being of sound body and mind, hereby confess to the illegal act of transporting 3 women across state lines, specifically from New Mexico into Colorado, for the purpose of delivering them to a crime syndicate. What they plan to do with these women, I am unsure of, but I was paid $14,000 to pick them up just north of the Mexican border and drive them north to Durango. This is where I dropped them off. It was supposed to be a one-time thing, but these guys, they kept showing up at my house. They said they knew where my family was, in the Congo. They said they could bring them to me, or they could take them and sell them, like the way that I did for these women. Someone has to do something. I'm so sorry about this, please. I was trying to make money for my family. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, I told you. I told you when you asked. No, I told you.
The recording stops there. Clearly, Mr. Cambridge was in distress toward the end of that recording, and I think I understand why. You see, once his recording was unearthed, Mr. Cambridge's trial began immediately. His court-appointed lawyer insisted that the police had produced a forgery. Well, Marcus was indeed a man of darkened hue. One might naturally conclude that the police could... Well, it wouldn't be very hard to put a man like that away. Not a lot of questions would be asked about the veracity of such a recording, if you catch my drift. Now, unsurprisingly, Marcus Cambridge was convicted after a shockingly short trial. There were 0 witnesses called to the stand for either side, no tangible physical evidence, only that confession. And the jury, an all-white jury, I might add, convicted him. 3 short weeks later, he was set to be executed. Now, those last documents appeared to have been redacted, but apparently I was able to find the original copies. Here's what happened next. On the day of his execution, Marcus, in a desperate attempt to negotiate, said that he would confess if they allowed for a retrial. The police apparently agreed. Mere minutes before he was meant to be sent to death, Marcus sat down with his arresting officers and confessed, but not just any confession. He confessed using the exact words that were presented at his trial 3 weeks earlier. Then, against their word, the police electrocuted Marcus Cambridge to death. Now, could Marcus have committed that forged confession to memory and then recited it in a desperate attempt to spare his own life? Possibly. But how in the world would he remember every bit of it, word for word, including the breathing patterns? This is all covered in the detective notes. The police themselves seemed flabbergasted by the matter. If that weren't interesting enough, there's one final wrench in the gears of this story. When the police set out to compare the new tape to the original one, they were flummoxed to find that the tape that they had produced just hours ago was gone. Nowhere to be found. The last time anyone even remembered seeing it was right after it had been recorded, in the moment before they executed Mr. Cambridge. Now, I am a reasonable man, but does this not sound all too much like the story of dear Lawrence Tyson and his murdered sister? Does it not sound as if the very fabric of time and space were ripped? Forward. perhaps accidentally or coincidentally, to facilitate this confession, Marcus appears to have locked himself in some sort of infinite time loop. One in which his desperate plea to buy more time ends up being the very action that leads to his demise. I submit that there is no false recording and no second confession. I think that the pre-execution confession of Marcus Cambridge somehow jumped or was thrown back in time. How, I have not the slightest notion, but I cannot help but suspect that there is something about the mathematical formulas I have been reconstructing that are a direct correlate to the events that took place in that New Mexico Police Department back in 1977. No. No, this can't be right. There must be a smudge. 1970. Congo. I need to... Where's my atlas? There's no such place as a Congo. Not in 1955, at least. Surely I must have got to know that I can't... What's this? Oh my! These equations, they must be... I see. I understand. The math is not wrong at all. The math is what moves it. Oh my, these formulas. Who could have done this? I must have... The gaps. I'm not losing memory. I'm gaining time. Have I been the one jumping? No, that's not possible, even if these calculations are accurate. No body can move across time. Time is not a physical plane. It's not... unless... Perhaps Einstein was incomplete after all. With this information, the right body in the right coordinates, from the right angle, or should I say, the wrong angle, might be able to slip in between. Perhaps if I... What are you?